Every one of us have seen the devastating news reports of Hurricane Katrina, full of floods, crying families, starving unclothed children, tarnished houses. Although we greatly sympathize with all those involved, none of us have actually experienced its continuing economic and societal effects. Therefore, we must all ask ourselves, did everyone in the Gulf Coast experience the horrors of Katrina that have basically been ingrained into our visual culture?
It's been over like 2.5, 3 years, and we still haven't came about.
With the help of our professor, we were able to set up an interview with former evacuee and current Emersonian Sam Mathias. Originally from Slidell, Louisiana, which is located right outside of New Orleans, Sam welcomed us with open arms and was more than willing to share his experiences with all of us.
This is his room in the little building. Hi, nice to meet you.
You too.
So you said you went back to check on your house, so you've been back since the hurricane?
Yeah, well, we went back to check on our house. You can, like, right after the hurricane, you could only go back for, like, a day to, like, check on your house and, like, get stuff you needed. But about, like, a month after the hurricane, we, like, went back for good. So.
What was that like?
It was pretty crazy, because when we went back down for good, like, we still didn't have power for a couple days. And it was just weird, like, living there and having, like, these, like, Army helicopters and Red Cross trucks come around with, like, MREs, which are these, like, meals ready to eat. They're, like, preserved food. And it was kind of like a third world country, really, like, trees down, power lines down everywhere, like, houses on every block just, like, destroyed. Even during Katrina, a lot of people didn't leave the area, but with this last hurricane, Gustav, that almost hit New Orleans, I think it was, like, something like 95% of the people in the area evacuated. So, like, I think everybody down there is kind of like, yeah, I definitely know what these storms can do now, and they're kind of more afraid of them.
Did the hurricane and the way it was handled change the way you felt about the government with the whole FEMA situations?
Yeah, it did. Because, I mean, they definitely didn't handle it the way that they should have. But I think, like, also, people don't give them credit for doing the stuff that they did do, because it was such a big disaster. I don't think even if they would have, like, done everything they could have, that it would have been like a smooth operation.
New Orleans was on the hit list of 3 worst disaster zones: a terrorist attack in New York, earthquake San Francisco, breach levees in New Orleans. Instead, FEMA and Homeland Security treated the hurricane as if the levees never breached.
I want to read you something, Wolf. This is a quote from an editorial. "A better leader would have flown straight to the disaster zone and announced the immediate mobilization of every available resource. The cool, confident, intuitive leadership Bush exhibited in his first term, particularly in the months following 9/11, has vanished." Now, that's not from some liberal rag. That is an editorial from one of the most conservative newspapers in the country.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
We're feeding those people in the convention center. We have fed over 150,000 people as of last night. That is happening.
But I guess the point is, as of last night, sir, forgive me, I have to stop you here.
What we're hearing is that we're hearing people's frustration. There are people that are beginning to manifest themselves out of the community that we didn't know that were there.
It was baffling to me how you could have what was at that point a sort of official estimate of 50,000 people at the convention center and not know about it and have no idea.
I'm steady dialing on my cell phone 911. You can't get through, you can't get through. I got so desperate and lost a sense of intelligence that I dialed 0 for the operator and asked her could she transfer me to 911. She said, "I can't do it." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Because they're not taking any calls." What do you mean they're not taking any calls? I'm dying. I'm fucking dying in here. We're about to fucking drown because I'm here in the water. And I'm sorry for cursing, but the more I think about it, the more angry I get, because I'm like, I'm I'm here talking to you, so if you can hear my voice talking to you, then you know a heart must be beating inside of a body, which means there's a life here.
On Refuge in Language by Suhair Hamad. I do not wish to place words in living mouths or bury the dead dishonorably. I am not deaf to cries escaping shelters, that citizens are not refugees. Refugees are not Americans. I will not use language one way or another to accommodate my comfort. I will not look away. All I know is this. No peoples ever choose to claim status of dispossessed. No peoples want pity above compassion. No enslaved peoples ever called themselves slaves. What do we pledge allegiance to? A government that leaves its old to die of thirst surrounded by water is a foreign government. I think of how it is always the poor who are tagged and boxed with labels, not of their own choosing. I think of my grandparents and how some called them refugees, others called them non-existent. They called themselves landless, which means homeless. Before the hurricane, no tents were prepared for the fleeing, because Americans do not live in tents. Tents are for Haiti, for Bosnia, for Rwanda. Refugees are the rest of the world, those left to defend their human decency. Against conditions the rich keep their animals from, those who have too many children, those who always have open hands and empty bellies, those whose numbers are massive, those who seek refuge from nature's currents and man's resources, those who are forgotten in the meantimes, those who remember. Evacuated as a criminal, rescued by neighbors, shot by soldiers, adamant they belong. The rest of the world can now see what I have seen. Do not look away. The rest of the world lives here too, in America.
Remember, forever. Remember.